The Incredible Mr. Limpet, based on the 1942 novel by the same name, written by Theodore Pratt, is a movie about a man named Mr. Limpet who magically turns into a fish and serves the Navy by helping them locate German U-boats by using some sort of echolocation to tell the Americans where they're located. Think about it like Danny's ghostly whale, except far more deadlier and destructive. The main protagonist is voiced by Don Knotts, who was Barney in The Andy Griffin Show, and his love interest Ladyfish was played by Elizabeth McRae, who was also part of the show. According to Don Knotts, the film wasn't well received when it first came out, but over time, thanks to re-releases, it did find its audience.
Interestingly, when we released Mr. Limpet and Warner Bros. Did, in the beginning it was not a hit. I remember I went to New York to do PR for the picture, went to a restaurant and the doorman said, "Hey, Mr. Knotts, welcome back to New York. Hey, I understand you got a lousy movie in town." Anyway, it was re-released. It started to pick up, it started to do better. And as time went on, it just seemed to build and build until it, as I understand, it's become a sort of perennial favorite.
Yeah, kind of harsh, but it's good that it found people that actually enjoyed it. Now, for my own thoughts of the movie, it's a bit of a coin toss. At one hand, I see this as a really stupid movie about a fish joining the Navy, and on the other hand, I see this as a pretty smart movie telling us the dangers of propaganda. Let me break it down so you know what I'm talking about. Mr. Limpet starts out the movie as a guy obsessed with fish. He reads about them, he cares for them, he brings one to his office, he even wants to fuck one. That's not a joke.
I'll never leave you, and I hope you'll never leave me. It's always the males who leave in our species. That's why there's so few of us.
Well, in that case, there might be more before long.
That's Mr. Limpet's character, a guy that likes fish. So when it comes to the point in the film where he magically turns into a fish, he's ecstatic. Swimming around, talking to aquatic life, enjoying the sea, all that good stuff. This continues on halfway into the movie until he sees the US Navy trying to sink a Nazi U-boat. It's there he decides to forget all about his fish life and go full-on American patriot to help the Navy destroy it, quickly forgetting the wonder of the sea and all its majesty just to help the Navy kill Nazis. This shit gets even more crazy by the end of the movie, where it's hinted by these Navy guys that he's been training an army of porpoises just in case he's called into action again.
Do they really think that Henry is really teaching porpoises?
That's what we've been assigned to find out, you and I, Pickle.
Now, how did this happen, you might ask? How did Mr. Limpet become a fish lover to a weapon of mass destruction in a blink of an eye? The answer lies in the beginning of the movie, where he was egged on to join the Navy by his employees, wife, and his best friend. All with the central idea that if you don't join the Navy, you're nothing.
I suppose we'll be losing you to the Navy soon then.
I'm afraid not.
Oh, really?
No, my eyesight and a few other things. I'm classified 4F.
Everybody can't be a hero, Mr. Limpet.
Well, little buddy, I hear you missed the boat, huh?
The boat? No, I missed the subway train, but
No. Hanky, pal. Down at the draft board. Washed out completely, I hear.
Oh, that. Well, yes, I did, Bessie. They rejected me, Bessie. Let's not say too much about this in front of George, all right?
This really gets to Mr. Limpet, that even when he gets away from all the noise, he still gravitates towards the Navy, even though he found the life he always wanted, changing him from a fish lover to a fish destroyer, becoming a weapon.
He's our friend.
He's a piece of hardware, Hogarth. Why do you think the army was here?
He's a weapon. A big gun that walks.
Actually, though, now that I think about it, I might just be reading too deep into this. I mean, it's a guy that turns into a fish, right? There's nothing more to that, right?
He's the pride of humanity and the song of the sea. He's been telling me he's a hero all the way. He's the one who really is Dr. Victory. He's the superhuman and he's the you. There's his name. It's a great.
Anyhow, this 1964 movie was planned to be rebooted by Warner Bros., this time done in CG. In 1997, Jim Carrey entered negotiations to star in the title role. And on February 1998, Steve Odekirk was chosen as writer and director for the film. Now, you'd think a movie like this will be fairly simple, right? Jim Carrey starts off as an average Joe, falls into the water, turns into a fish, and goes on his sea adventures. A story pretty plain and simple. And with Jim Carrey as the star, and Steve Odekirk having worked with Jim before on Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls, One will think all the cards were set to make a good movie. Nothing that will probably blow your socks off, but a good movie nonetheless. So what did stop this movie from ever happening? Everybody come one, come all! I present you the one and only Gemfish!
No.
Why does this thing exist? Why am I here? Why can I not stop staring at it? Yes, you're not mistaken. That's Jim Carrey's face on a fish. I call it Gemfish. Jim Carrey's face on top of a fish, hence the name. Yeah, very clever. And just take a good look at it. Surely he's the snack that sucks your soul. Now, how did this abomination happen, you might ask? 2 words, studio interference. Yeah, get this, the people in Warner Brothers decided if they were going to pay Jim Carrey $25 million, oh boy, that's a lot of moolah, that they better have his face in the whole time. No kidding, here's the quote. We're paying for Jim Carrey, we're having his face in the whole time, no matter what. Wow, that's the equivalent of paying for a clown for your kid's birthday party. And seeing that you still have an hour left with him, you decide to take him to your grandma's funeral, just to lighten up the mood. Nice. Brad Bird, who was considered to direct the film, after Steve Odekirk left for creative differences, had this to say about the design. If you saw this in water, you would get out of the water and run screaming and tell everyone the world was ending. Yeah, who would blame them? The designer of Gemfish was Bob Camp. You might know him for his work on Ren and Stimpy, having directed it, storyboard, written, voiced, co-created, etc. And also his many other works in the animation industry. He made Gemfish by making caricatures from scenes of Dumb and Dumber and putting Jim's face on top of a fish. And, you know, look, some of these sketches ain't half bad. Some of them are actually good. And then there's one that would definitely haunt my dreams forever. But you know, if you pull back on the face a bit and try to make him look more like a fish, stepping back from that uncanny valley of fiction and reality, I think you could have got us something that would have been pretty good. I mean, Mr. Limpet in the original movie is basically the same as Mr. Limpet in fish form, just minus the skull structure of a human face, and he looks alright. I think design-wise, this movie would have been fine if it was done in 2D like the original, instead of trying to force that CG mocap look that the studio was going for. Something that won't make the audience worry, but be happy. But in the end, this doesn't really matter since the film was never made. Now, just real quick, here's a rundown of the film's other attempts to be made. Warner Brothers hired Mike Judge, the creator of Beavis the Butthead and co-creator of King of the Hill, as director and co-writer for the film. Actors considered for the role were Robin Williams, Chris Rock, Mike Myers, and Adam Sandler. Filming was set to begin in early 2001, but that never happened. Fast forward to June 2009, Kevin Lima, director of Enchanted and the Goofy movie, was chosen to direct the Incredible Mr. Limpet movie, and Zach Galifianakis was in talk to take the lead role. Richard Linklater afterwards took the role of director. And actors considered for the movie were John Hamm, Danny McBride, Sarah Silverman, Kevin Hart, Josh Gad, Keegan-Michael Key, and Jordan Peele. Linklater later left the project to concentrate on his next film, That's What I'm Talking About, released as Everybody Wants Some in 2016. So yeah, that's the Mr. Limpet reboot. It never came as you might have guessed. But you know, that's fine to be honest. It was an okay film, but it didn't really need to be rebooted. Besides, that's not what I find interesting about all this. What I find interesting is that they stopped the first draft of the movie from ever happening because of how uncanny Jim Carrey's face on a fish looked. This gets to me because about half a century later, Shark Tales made it to theaters. Another movie about actors, actually multiple actors, faces on fish. We got Will Smith, Angelina Jolie, and Renee Zellweger. And if we're just going on character designs, these are pretty terrible. Not god awful, but something that should have been avoided completely, or at least reworked on. Actually, never mind. After looking at the background characters for a second, I realized how bad of an idea this whole thing was. Oh god. And to think the realization for this not being able to work happened only a few years ago. Well, it was 50 years, but kind of a few. Not really. But hey, just goes to show how weird the early 2000s were on what was being shown on theaters. And look, at least it's not worse than Club Oscar. This was surely something petrifying, and I'm pretty sure it would have left anyone born in the 90s freaked out if it was ever to come out. To think there's probably another dimension that got this film instead of something like Finding Nemo. Oh man, I sure do feel sorry for them. But then again, I'm sickened, but curious on what this film could have been. Anyway, this was just a short video on this canceled movie. I really do like covering canceled work, and in the future I hope to do more. So if you like this video, give it a like. And if you want, subscribe. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys later. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.